Good morning. Welcome to the Knox County R1 schools today to our celebration of our veterans. Our community and students and staff have worked hard to bring you this celebration. I hope that everyone has enjoyed the delicious breakfast prepared by our kitchen staff. Also, as you entered, you've probably noticed all the artwork in the hallways that our students have put together. We'd like to thank their art teachers, Mrs. Hunt and Mrs. Baker, for their leadership and planning. We would also like to thank Mrs. Henry and Mr. Matt Rail for the fine music you're about to hear through this ceremony. Our students in grades K through 12 have each written a special letter to veterans, thanking them for their service to our country. Their letters will be featured in the video, and then you will receive those letters in the mail call. A special thanks to all of our teachers who guided the students through this letter writing process. Another special thanks today goes to our Knox County Elementary retired teacher, Mrs. Marsha Pinson, for playing the piano to accompany our elementary students as they perform today. Thank you to Mrs. McNabb and the students in the National Honor Society for volunteering to help this morning. Thank you to everyone who helped set up the gymnasium to prepare for this event. A very special thanks goes out to the Veterans Day Committee for organizing today's events. Without them, this would not be possible. The members of the committee are Jennifer Orton, Kisha Goodwin, Lisa Clark, Keith Goodhouse, Karen Hodge, Tanya Hunt, Kim Henry, and Chairman Francis Jones. Also, we would like to thank our board members who have helped seat our guests this morning and welcome our guests. We also want to recognize our high school math teacher, retired Lieutenant Colonel Keith Goodhouse, for not only his service to our community, to our country, but also to our community. Keith will be leading the celebration today. I'd also like to thank you for coming to our program today. It is with great appreciation and solemn respect that we celebrate the sacrifices that our veterans have made on our behalf. Please enjoy this program. May I present to you retired Lieutenant Colonel Keith Goodhouse.
Good morning. Welcome to today's event. Thank you all very much for attending this special occasion that we hold each year here at Knox County in honor of the veterans who you see seated before you here today. Veterans Day, unlike Memorial Day, Veterans Day is actually a day to celebrate and to honor the service of our living veterans. And this school does it as well as any I've ever seen, and I've been in a lot of different schools in my lifetime. I am very appreciative to Knox County Schools, to the support of Mr. Turner, Mr. Brown, Mrs. Goodwin, and especially Mrs. Jones, who puts this all together every year and heads this up. This is an occasion where I think it's important for all of us to come together, especially our young people in the crowd, where they can sit and they can look down and they can see the individuals responsible for making all of this possible, for making it possible for them to go to school every day, whether they're a boy or a girl, and get an education and go home in peace every night. So thank you, all of you, for your service. This event, when I came back 3 or 4 years ago, we had a Veterans Day recognition ceremony, and I think we had I was talking to somebody this morning, I think it was Mr. Turgeon, we had a flag folding ceremony in the elementary gym, and then we came up here and had about a 15-minute assembly in the high school gym and did the same thing, and it was nice, but as you can see, it's nothing like what the school does today. So I think you, whether you know it or not, you are probably in one of the nicest Veterans Day events that you'll see definitely anywhere in this part of the state, if not across the state as a whole. So thank you once again. At this point, I would ask you all to please stand for the presentation of the flag, the national anthem, and the pledge of allegiance. Now, if you would please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. At this time, our elementary music students will entertain us with a rendition of American Beauty.
America,
tradition that we've carried on for a few years here at the school. Like I said, this used to be the primary point of the assembly that we had. We're going to invite Mr. Ed Anderson up front and our volunteers from our high school to come down. I think Mrs. Jones had coordinated some. Shane. And what Mr. Anderson is going to demonstrate and talk our students through is the proper folding and honors to the American flag.
These guys. All right. All right. Now, unfurl the flag. Step back.
This is a tradition that we have honored at Knox County for several years, and we want to continue that here today. There is an unusual ritual that is associated with folding the American flag that is not duplicated in any other place that I'm aware of in the world. I had the privilege to be at a funeral for a Royal Air Force veteran, and at the conclusion of that service, they folded the flag up into a square and presented it to the next of kin. And it just didn't seem right to me because that's not the way we do things. We fold the flag, and when we are completed folding the flag, it looks like a triangle, which represents a hat that was worn during the Revolutionary War, and it reminds us of our heritage as Americans. And when it is completed in the folds, there should be nothing showing but the stars. And we're hopeful that that will happen again today. All right.
Now first fold is to the middle. We'll bring both sections to the middle. All right. And then this side will reach to the bottom. Pull it up. All right. Pull it tight, and then we'll fold again in the middle. Again. Now comes the tricky part. Now they're going to start folding from the end, while keeping the flag taut. Go here, and we fold it as a triangle all the way through, making sure that it is tight, and that we wind up on the edge every time. Eventually you'll pass it off to these guys. Now comes the fun part. We have to fold this over. Fold this we'll stick this part underneath. Look at that.
Thank you, Ed, and thank you to our volunteers. I just want to share one of my favorite memories from being on active duty and actually living on military installations was at the end of, or toward the end of the normal duty day, every single day. It was always, especially if you lived on a post, because there's really no place you could hear it, typically over a loudspeaker of some sort. They would play the bugle call, which is called retreat, which is where they traditionally lowered the flag for the day and then went through the ceremony that you saw right now with soldiers that lived on post. And it was something that on a military installation, cars, people, buses, everything ceased at that point. You stopped where you were, you got out of your car, you stopped washing your car, whatever, you stood and you paid honor to the flag as it was lowered and folded properly. And it was always one of my favorite things was to see a front yard full of 5- and 6-year-old kids who knew when they heard that music what was happening, and they would stop and salute. And it was neat to see, and that's one thing I really miss. And it's a special time today. And if you ever get a chance where you're on a military installation that still does that, I think you'll enjoy it as much as I did. I do want to make one administrative announcement before I move on, before I forget it. Ed Anderson and the American Legion in Edina host a soup supper every year on Veterans Day. It's from 4:30 to 7 o'clock. It's their primary fundraiser for the year. Anybody is invited to come to that soup supper. It is a donation event, and I would really encourage you to get over there this evening. I plan to get there myself, and I know it's a special deal, and I hope you'll take some time to stop by today. At this point, I want to introduce our next speaker. Senator Brian Munslinger is here with us today. He's a lifelong farmer. He's a 1978 graduate of the University of Missouri-Columbia with a Bachelor of Science degree in General Agriculture and a teaching certificate in agriculture. Senator Munslinger and his wife Michelle have 2 children. They attend Monticello United Methodist Church. Senator Munslinger is a member of Missouri Farm Bureau, Missouri Corn Growers, Missouri Soybean, Missouri Cattlemen's, NFIB, Alpha Gamma Rho fraternity, State Fair Foundation, University of Missouri Alumni Association, and a life member of the National Rifle Association. He's a busy man. He serves on the advisory board of the University of Missouri's Greenway Research Center. I think we're all very familiar with that. And the board of directors for the Nemo Grain Processors Co-op. Senator Munslinger was elected and served in the Missouri House from 2002 to 2008, and he was elected to the Missouri Senate in 2010. And we're honored to have him here with us today. So with that, I will introduce you to Senator Munslinger.
Thank you, Keith. This is a great day. And I want to thank you all for inviting me to be here as a part of this. And I would especially like to extend a very special welcome to all the veterans, their families, and family members who have gathered here today as well. We thank you for your service to our great country. As the Reverend Billy Graham once said, courage is contagious. When a brave man takes a stand, the spines of others are often stiffened. You know, I think back in my time in the legislature, and there's 2 really memorial events that have happened. I got a call from Erlen Earlywine's family. We had helped him get his Purple Heart. For some reason he hadn't gotten it. But he wanted me to present it to him. And I want to tell you, that was quite a memorial event for me to present a Purple Heart to one of my friend, occasionally the military that goes overseas will ask some of us to furnish a flag. Well, I furnished a flag that went to Afghanistan, and didn't really know. I just sent one over, they asked for it, and I sent a Missouri flag over. And my only request to them was that they fly it with pride. And about a month and a half later, I got a box, a big box. It had the flag back in it, returned to me, with pictures of them holding it in front of a helicopter that they had flown that flag over Afghanistan. And I have that flag framed along with the picture on the wall in my office. You know, anything we can do to help support our veterans. And I want to say just some things that we've done in Jeff City this past year. As your legislators, we recognize the contributions of the military personnel in various ways. One example, during the legislative session this year, we were able to pass Senate Bill 474, which expands the Heroes Way Interchange Designation Program. This new law expands the program to allow for designations of bridges and segments of highways. And surely you all have seen some of those out there where we name bridges or segments of highways. But this expands the program to allow for designations of any member of the United States Armed Forces killed in action while performing active military duty. And we in the legislature have also urged the Department of Defense and our congressional delegation to protect, preserve, and promote state military bases and agencies, such as Fort Leonard and all the others that we are blessed to have here in the state of Missouri. And under Senate Concurrent Resolution number 7, that was what we did. We also passed House Bill 179, which allows a retired military member to receive a veteran's designation on his or her driver's license. I think that will help out a lot of times when you're asked if you are a veteran or not. Plus, we established the Office of Military Advocate to advocate for the military of Missouri through House Bill 1070. It is an honor to be in the Missouri General Assembly and do all we can for those who have served our great country so selflessly. I want to just take a moment. Representative Redmond, Craig Redmond, wanted to be here today. He said this is a great event, and he was very pleased to be a part of it last year, but he had other duties he had to fulfill today, but he wished me to express his gratitude to our veterans of Missouri. And you know, equally important from the active military are our Guard and Reserve members, and also put first on the scene when disaster strikes. And unfortunately, all too often, we've had this call on their service here in Northeast Missouri, whether it's tornadoes or floods. We all know too well how they help out when disaster strikes. To all of you who have served, we say thank you. We will remember your sacrifices and we will pray for your families. And just one thing, of those who haven't been able to go on the honor flight, please do. As I visit with those who have, it is a very memorable experience and a great service to those veterans who have served our great country. We are forever indebted to your faithful service that allows us to continue to say, God bless the USA. Thank you.
At this time, I'm honored to introduce Chaplain Colonel Gary Gilmore, who is the chaplain for the Missouri National Guard. My first opportunity to meet him was this morning. Like all chaplains, he's an easy man to get to know. I spent a lot of time around chaplains during my active duty service time, both deployed and stateside. And you know, that old saying about there are no atheists and foxholes is very accurate, and you wouldn't believe how much business chaplains get when we are employed. And it was good for my faith and good for me to be able to have that interaction with them. And we're glad to have him here today. So let me introduce him properly. Chaplain Gilmore has been the National Guard chaplain, a National Guard chaplain since 1987, serving various units in Missouri. Since 9/11, he's responded to multiple state emergency duties and has deployed twice within the U.S. and once to Baghdad. He's currently the senior Army chaplain for the Missouri National Guard in Jefferson City. Prior to coming to the Guard full-time, Chaplain Gilmore pastored Missouri churches for a total of 24 years. He and his wife, Susan, a third-grade teacher, are the parents of 3 grown daughters. So with that, let me introduce you to Chaplain Gary Gilmore.
To all of our elementary students, I bring you greetings from Mrs. Gilmore's 3rd grade class. They would much rather be here than in class, and I won't make this forever because I know you're all excited about getting back to class as well. What a wonderful event this is. What a great privilege it is to be kind of highlighted at an event where the entire community comes together. How great it was to see folks gathered around the table today. I said breakfast today was part of the 4 food groups. There's meat and vegetables and biscuits and gravy. I think that works out real well. But it was so great to see the generations sitting together and enjoying each other's company. You veterans were invited by some special people, and I trust and pray that you've made quite an impression on them today. So we thank our cooks and our crew. We thank you for this opportunity. What a great turnout this is, the veterans and community as well. I'd like to take a moment also to add my words to the veterans gathered here from all branches and all services and all eras. You guys are the shoulders that my generation and those following me stand upon. And we appreciate very much your sacrifices. We have very few World War II vets left. We have a lot of Korean guys, and they feel forgotten, but I say to you, you're not forgotten. And then our Vietnam guys, I tell you, talk about role models and examples for us all. There's a lot of events like today that weren't done in your honor. But when one of my generation soldiers falls, you guys show up, and sometimes it's on a motorcycle, and sometimes it's not. But you stand outside, whether it's hot or whether it's cold, and you just silently hold an American flag. As a chaplain, I can tell you that means more to a family at their moment of grief and sorrow, that you come around a fallen brother or sister, and you stand by them. So I thank you personally for what you've done and for what you do. And I hope and pray that you in your heart know that you have your due, and the good Lord knows what you have done as well. We do have a military recognition medal that is provided by our state legislature. We do appreciate the support of our elected leaders. And if you have not gotten that, there's one for each era. Korea, Vietnam, World War II is still out there. They have yet to finalize that for the Desert Storm and the Iraqi and the Enduring Freedom era, but that is out there, and we trust and pray that that will come. And it is a small way for the state of Missouri to just give recognition for your service. If I could connect you with that, you just call the Missouri National Guard, ask for the chaplain's office, and I'll hook you up with the right people. I think everyone who served should have that recognition from their citizens. So I bring you greetings from our Adjutant General, Major General Stephen Danner, and I thank you for this great privilege to speak to you on Veterans Day. I look forward to this moment with great anticipation, hoping that I can somehow convey to you the importance of this day in a creative way. So my intentions for our time together are simple. On the screen behind me, and please, if you can't see it, you would honor me greatly. You just scoot to where you can, because that's going to be the highlight is behind me on the screen. I want to share the story of one veteran in hopes that you will sense the dynamics of many veteran stories, and and then I offer 3 simple requests for you to consider this Veterans Day. So let's begin. Would you meet Elmer, please? Elmer lived on Ontario Street in Minneapolis, Minnesota, the 4th of 5 children of immigrant parents. In January of 1918, the dreaded postcard arrived directing him to get a physical that would certify him for duty with the American Expeditionary Force, the AEF. In mid-February, he resigned his job at the paper mill, and by the end of the month, he was at Camp Dodge, Iowa, getting medical shots, trying on uniforms, standing guard, and learning about the dreaded KP duty, kitchen police. Elmer obtained a pocket-sized diary in which he recorded the major events of each of his days. Those bullet comments tell the story of his experience as a doughboy in World War I. In March and April, Elmer learned that he was to be an engineer, and his unit was sent to Camp Devon, Massachusetts. Unlike the engineers of today with their sophisticated backhoes and bulldozers, Elmer and Company B of the 602nd Engineers did their work the old-fashioned way. His diary reads, "First taste of engineer work, digging, blister, forgot to fall in rank, penalty, KP. Got balled out by a major for not making attention. Chopped wood all day, on guard 3rd shift, rain. Barracks looks good to us." Around the 1st of July 1918, Elmer and the 602nd Engineers sailed for France from Hoboken, New Jersey on the SS Sierra. But Elmer was on board that ship praying for land. This Minnesota boy could handle the cold, but not the seasickness. His diary says, oh, where is land? And I've seen all the ocean I want to see. From the ship, onto railroad cattle cars, 38 men to a car, Elmer and his buddies bumped their way into the center of France for yet more training. In early August, the diary says, we received our gas mask and helmet. I practiced with my mask in the afternoon. Have to do it in 6 counts. Took me about 12 counts. Goodbye, Elmer, if gas comes for him. He describes the wonders of this new world of war, seeing airplanes fly overhead and watching an actual dogfight, hearing the boom of heavy artillery in the distance, watching 500 German prisoners being marched to the rear, and always practicing with that gas mask. He also describes the monotonous routine and struggle of a soldier's life. Rain and mud, forgetting to fall into formation every now and then and being punished with KP duty, practicing with the bayonet and getting a cut on his head, and saluting once with his left hand. But Elmer had a tender heart too. He constantly records how many letters he wrote home, and how many times he attended church or a YMCA meeting. Diary entries include the words, no mail, guess everyone forgot I'm in this country. And one time he writes, a beautiful moon tonight, and no one to enjoy it with. Well, unknown to Elmer, the war had taken a dramatic turn. The Allies were gathering their strength for a push along the entire front. The American Expeditionary Force had to move people and weapons and supplies some 60 miles in 2 weeks to begin the battle that became known as the Meuse-Argonne. Now to us, that's no big deal, but to the AEF, it was a logistical nightmare. To move the artillery alone meant moving 2,000 guns and 600,000 tons of supplies and ammunition. The guns of one division's artillery took up 10 miles of road space, and to move the infantry of one division required 900 trucks. And you had to do that at night because the Germans could see with their observation planes in the day. And that was just to get to the battle. The battle itself took place in a valley about 20 miles wide, with the Meuse River as a boundary on the right and the Argonne Forest on the left, thus the name the Meuse-Argonne. In the middle of this plain was a hill or a mountain. They call it, I don't know it in French very good, Mount Falcon. It's the Mount of the Falcon was its name. And so the Germans held this valley. They could quickly reinforce it from the north with 15 more divisions in about a 5-day period. But before it was over, the historians tell us some 40 German divisions came to fight for this area. So it was essential to take this area quickly by attacking fast and far, to take the high ground before the Germans could reinforce, and ultimately on the other side of this was a town called Sedan that had a railway terminal, and it was a direct line into the heart of Germany and end the war. So we want to end the war. Who are you going to call? Elmer and the engineers. Sounds like a plan. What are you going to use? You're going to use a broom and a bucket. Aren't you glad you fight for America? How are you going to win? You're going to build roads and bridges. So out of the muck and the mire of the mud, and out of the rock that was hidden underneath that soil, and from the trees of the Argonne woods, the engineers transformed wagon ruts into roads that took the artillery, the infantry, and their supplies to the battle. Let's let selected entries from Elmer's diary describe his experience from September 23rd to October 10th, the day that the Germans left the Argonne woods. The day the attack began, Elmer wrote in his diary, "The big guns are off, walked about 6 miles, slept 2 hours. The barrage is on, big guns in the woods, gas. 2 gas alarms last night, mask on in a hurry, scared. Not much rest. Had breakfast at 4:30. The guns are booming again. On hike. Fixed road in the morning, no dinner. Walked to our front lines and worked on the road again. Mud. Pitched our tents, rolled in and had to get up and worked until 3 a.m. Took a bath and washed my clothes in a shell hole. Cleaned up tent and wrote a letter home. Guns booming again. 7 buried. Ducked under a wagon when a German plane came above us. Pretty good day. 4 shells landed nearby. Fried some bread in my mess kit. Spoiled the bread. Spoiled my kit too. Sick in my stomach, and I didn't enjoy KP duty at all. Made dinner again for the boys, but I still feel sick. I heard one of our C got hurt in camp. Shell. Peter Johnson killed. Slowly but surely, the rocks filled those shell holes, and out of the mud and the grime emerged roads and bridges, and the troops began to move. The politics and negotiations were unknown to Elmer and the engineers at the front, but in the pre-dawn hours of November 11th, the Allied and German representatives signed an armistice set to take place at 11 a.m. that same day. And Elmer's diary on November 11th says, "Guns to stop firing at 11 a.m., everybody happy." At the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, it became Armistice Day. And Armistice Day has become Veterans Day to us, November 11th of each year. Elmer was told he'd be headed home by December 10th, but in typical Army style, you go to December 10th, and instead of going home, Elmer crosses a bridge into the very heart of Germany to become a part of the occupation force. On Christmas Eve, they handed out boxes from home, and Elmer didn't get one. The day after Christmas, he received a card stating that his box was coming, but the cussed mail would delay its arrival until January. But on New Year's Eve, Elmer's diary entry says, "Where was I a year ago? No box. The end of a perfect year, 1918. Elmer's diary has an address book. Well, let me back up. I missed a spot here. After a bout with the flu that put him in the hospital for a week, Elmer took advantage of the opportunity to sightsee and learn about the world. The last entry of his diary, dated February 22nd, says, "I heard we would go home soon." The journey home came back through Camp Dodge, where he was allowed to keep his helmet, given a medal, a brass button, and a bonus of $105. He was discharged from the AEF. He went back home to Minneapolis and got his old job back, where he worked until retirement in 1957. Elmer's diary has an address book in the back in which he recorded the names and addresses of the friends and relatives, and he kept little tick marks on how many times they wrote him and how many times he wrote them. It's interesting to note the entry of Mabel Blomquist in the upper left-hand corner, complete with a check mark and an X, because they had met skating at the Hippodrome in St. Paul prior to the war, and upon renewing that relationship, they were married in 1923. 4 children graced this home. There was Lois, the eldest, Elmer Jr., that was named Sonny or Chris. There was Mary Ann, and then there was Joyce. Joyce is my mother, and Elmer is my grandfather. When I was in college, my dad called one Sunday morning, and he said, "You need to come home, son. Your grandpa died of a heart attack last night." Private Elmer Christensen was buried in the National Cemetery in St. Paul, Minnesota, between historic Fort Snelling on the Mississippi River and the International Airport. 2 symbols of the generation and history he helped to connect. Would you allow me to draw from Elmer's story 3 simple requests that those of us around the edges today need to offer to these veterans who are seated in a place of honor among us today? At a minimum, I believe we owe our veterans understanding, respect, and appreciation. You know, the blank check definition of a veteran is where a person who at some point in their life wrote in the payable to line the United States of America, and they signed the bottom and handed it over. And it was up to the nation to determine what the price of their service would be. They filled in the date and the payable to, and then it was the prerogative of the nation. To a veteran, war is not an academic issue or about politics. It's really a question of how much. How much will it cost me to serve my country? Will it cost me my job? Will it cost me my family? Will it cost me my legs? Will it cost me my life? I don't believe veterans want you to fix them or to show them undue sympathy, but every now and then they need to know that you understand they put it all on the line and that you get what that costs them. And because you get that, what they risk for you, then you can show them, secondly, a new measure of respect. It was a Friday night in Baghdad in 2007, and it was at the end of an all-officer call, and I was asked to close that meeting with a word of prayer. We'd been gone a long time, and it was going to be a long time before we got home. It was a fall day, and I said, "Ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot of good stuff going on in Missouri back home on a Friday night." And I said, "I know for a fact that the dreaded Aurora Hound Dogs wearing red and white are playing the virtuous and noble Mount Vernon Mountaineers wearing green and white." And I'm from Mount Vernon. I said, "But the highlight of the game will not be the final score, or bragging rights at the coffee shop tomorrow. The highlight of the game will be a moment when the players and spectators of both sides will pause, remove their headgear, place their hand over their heart, and show respect for the red, white, and blue as it is hoisted high at the beginning of the game. A veteran counts on the fact that we will rise above our pettiness and our preferences to honor the country they risked their life for. I like to say it like this: we may wear different colors on game day, ladies and gentlemen, but we all fly one flag. You can always respect a service member's story in a larger cause of our nation. And lastly, I would say, I think you ought to show our vets some appreciation. I'm always grateful when people come up and thank me for my service. In fact, I need to do a little aside. I've been to Edina before. I was a little kid. My dad sold Ford tractors here. If there's any farmer around here, a guy who knows who the dealer was, probably 25 years ago, my dad made a call on this. One day he brought me to Edina. I'm sitting in the back, buckled in, the seatbelt's real big, you know. I have no idea how I got to Edina. And I was driving up here last night, the sun went down, and I still have no idea how I got to Edina, actually. That's just extra, that's not in the script. But I stopped at the cafe down on the square, and I was running late, and the small town I lived in, pastored in, things closed up real quick. If you're hungry, you go eat now. Soldiers learn how to do that. Well, I'm in there, and I don't know where that person is, but somebody last night showed me appreciation. I went to pay, and all of a sudden my money wasn't any good around this town. And I look at that and I say, you know, people come up and they say, thank you for your service. And I say, I will be sure to let Susan know, because she's the hero at our house. She kept the girls going to school. She kept the home fire burning in a lot of ways. She took on the extra duty while I was gone. But I really think for all of us, the greatest appreciation you can show a veteran, and students, especially high schoolers and middle schoolers, you hear me carefully today, do something significant with your life. The greatest way you can honor these men is do the best at your studies, do the best at your vocation that you possibly do. You dishonor the Lord and you dishonor these folks who fought for your freedom if you dream little, tiny, mediocre dreams. Do something important. Take a stand. Serve your community. Make your life count. Use the freedom that these men and women here in the middle of this floor today have provided to you. America gave my grandpa a broom and a bucket and a bunch of rocks. And he never had the privilege of going to college when he was 18 years old. And I don't think that's because of his socioeconomic background. I think it's because the world was at war and it was a fight to the death, and somebody had to stand up and stop that stuff. But I believe, even though pounding big rocks into little rocks isn't really glamorous, I think my grandpa helped build the road for freedom. He and so many others created the opportunity for us to be here today, and we have the right to choose what we will make of our own lives. So don't just put a yellow ribbon bumper sticker on your car and honk if you like veterans. Live it out. Do something with it. Show them by the way that you conduct your lives that you too are proud to be an American. So I think, men and women, when someone comes up to you and they want to thank you for your service, would you stretch that conversation out just a little bit? Why don't we make it easy? Why don't we look at them and say, I'm glad I had a chance to serve and I did the best I could. What do you want to do with your life? And you know, if we had our students and we had our veterans talking about how the freedom that we have fought for is being used, I think we get to share in their success just a little bit, just like they share in our heritage and in our legacy. And if we're willing to talk and not just do the little short thing, but to say, so tell me your plans, tell me your dreams. How can I help you become the citizen of freedom that matters? I think we're all going to have a much better day. Can I show you one last slide? Could I ask us to go beyond? Yeah, take a look at Dad, go to that right there. That man right there is the chaplain that took care of my grandpa in World War I. That is one of my most treasured possessions, and I really want that car. I don't know about the knickers and the bootleggings and stuff, but wouldn't that car be cool? You know the chaplain showed up if he showed up in a vehicle like that. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for the privilege of coming to speak to you today. I would say to you that these thoughts and this story is truly my own, but you know what? Every one of us has a story. And for us to share that legacy with the generations coming by, maybe it's at an event like this over a plate of biscuits and gravy. Maybe it's at the gridiron when the Eagles take the field and you guys cheer them on. Maybe it's being part of that veteran service organization or helping out the school here with the PTA or the school board. You make a difference. And what you do here in Knox County touches all the world. Thank you so much for the privilege of coming to share with you today. I think it's time for us to move ahead with our program and get to work, because we are blessed with a wonderful world to make even better. God bless you. God bless the United States.
Very inspirational, great speech, and I think a lot of you get a chance to see why chaplains are so important to us. What a great person to have around. At this point, we'll move ahead with our program, and I'd like to introduce our own Knox County band. They will present a medley of service songs, and then it will be followed up immediately with a song by our elementary music students. So I would invite you during the medley of service songs, when your service song is played, I would invite you to stand up and pay your respects.
this is what you deserve.
Sometimes we take our freedom and call it who we are for granted.
Thank you for the sacrifice you made for our country.
You are brave even if you were in war. You are patriots and heroes who answer the call with courage, strength, and sacrifice.
Thanks to you, I will always keep my hands over my heart and get the flag with pride.
Our country is awesome because you saved it.
For fighting for all freedom. Your service gave us all kinds of opportunities.
I like how we get to pick our church, jobs, clothing, very little freedom.
We can hunt, fish, do all the fun things that we like to do. You made it possible for us to pass sports and go to school.
You give us hope for the future.
Thank you for stepping up and helping us all have a free country.
You step forward when others step back.
You have to be very ready to serve our country and sacrifice your life.
You have given them time for your family and your friends so I can create memories.
Thank you for serving our country.
Thank you for being brave. Thank you for your kindness. You're brave people, even if people don't say it, you really mean it.
Although we only have one day to come out and celebrate what we've done to help, we are thankful we're there today.
You are the best people in the USA.
You have returned that are welcome once more.
You are here.
Enjoy your day and smile, because you are a people.
Okay, one of my favorite parts of the ceremony is right here toward the conclusion, we get a chance to call up each of our veterans in attendance today and recognize you and present you with a letter that's been written by one of our students here in the school. So I will call your name. I have some help here, I think, that will help me to hand these out. I would also ask you if you're capable, if you'd like to stand up and let everybody see who you are and receive recognition. Bob Anderson. Kim Berry. Maynard Blackwood. Thomas Copeland. John Brady. Ed Brigham. Chris Buck. Red Callahan. Eldon Campbell. Deanna Cantrell. Gary Childress. Gary Clare. Larry Clark. Tyler Bob Collins. Dave Coop. Tom Corwin. Pam Dalton. John Daniels. Maurice DeBracolier. Don Delaney. Lawrence Dixon. Steve Dixon. Virgil Doss. Greg Engelbrecht. David Irwin. David Fagan. Michael Fox. Bryce Frankie. Kip Frankie. Thomas Gavitus. Gary Gibson. Chaplain Gary Gilmore. Evan Glasgow. Tim Goings. Larry Goodson. Rick Goodson. Jeff Goodwin. Richard Goodwin. Scott Goodwin. Bill Gregg. Our own Al Grant. Devin Newhouse. Donald Hall. Jerry Holman. Harry Holman. Dick Hopkins. J.R. Howe. Tanya Hunt. Bill Hunsiker. Kenny Hunsiker. Ken Jansen. Robert Keeper. Bill Gilday. Larry Plucky. Olin Plucky. Leland Bud Plucky. Matt Ricksteiger. Romy Ricksteiger. Adrian Lavoy. Larry Loman. Fred Luther. Terry Marble. Clayton Marshall. David McCabe. Ben McKay. Orville Miller. Leon Boots. Joe Myers. Vance Harris. Joe Paul. Jim Henson. Dale Prather. Ray Reedy. Randy Rayo. David Roush. Henry Roush. Pete Schultz. And Sam Schultz. Carol Simmons. Pete Simmons. Scott Slayball. James Steinkamp. Elmer Strange. Jim Trimble. Bonnie Triplett. Ron Strout. Diane Tucker. Charlotte Riley. Bob Ward. Dan Whitaker. Jack White. Richard Whitaker. Charlie Woodward. Uriah Yeager. Robert Yall. And Gary Gilman. If there are any veterans who are here who I didn't call, if you would please stand at this time so we can recognize you, and we would be happy to give you a letter, please. Thanks. Eddie McKenzie.
Keith Goodhouse.
So at this time, we are at the conclusion of our ceremony, but like any good military ceremony or military day, we always close with taps. Mr. Harry Holman is going to honor us today with the rendition of taps. I would ask that you would please stand.
Columbia yesterday.
I went to the wrong place.
Oh, I guess you did.
So I missed it. I'm gonna turn this live stream off if you tuned in to watch this Veterans Day program at Knox County R1 School District. Just like to say thank you. This is probably the best Veterans Day program ever. So anyway, I'm gonna shut down the live stream for now, and we will share it on my YouTube channel as soon as I get back to the office. Don't forget to thank a vet today.